welcome back to Spirituality Sessions. This is episode 3 and we will be talking today about astrology. I was thinking before I started filming this video that I haven't explicitly said that I don't know what I'm doing when I'm doing these videos. Basically, just don't take me too seriously. I'm not qualified in talking about astrology. I've done minimal learning. There's so much to learn about it. So astrology is really broad. It's almost impossible to talk about astrology in a general sense. So the way that I'm going to break this down is do a sort of intro into what astrology is, talk about the brief history of astrology, then talk about birth charts and planets and what that all means and some terms and stuff, and talk about what's going on in the universe right now. So what is astrology? Astrology is the study of the position of celestial beings like planets and stars and how they relate to your person in terms of your behaviour and your characteristics. It is not the same as astronomy. Astrology, astronomy, not the same thing. If you were to call an astronomer an astrologer, I think they'd probably have a heart attack. The whole difference between the two is that astrology is a pseudoscience or a pseudoscience, and astronomy is a science. So a pseudoscience is flip-flop an aeroplane. Oh, it's a helibopper. A pseudoscience is a collection of beliefs and or practices that are mistakenly regarded as being based on scientific method. Astrology is labelled as a pseudoscience because it's not falsifiable. For something to be labelled as a science, it has to be what's known as falsifiable, which means it needs to be proved wrong. For example, the sentence, "a swan is white," is a falsifiable sentence because we know that black swans exist. So, a brief history. Astrology is said to originate from Babylon, and then around the Roman times it was spread to the eastern Mediterranean countries like Greece and Egypt as well, so southern Mediterranean a little bit too. Most of our modern astrology comes from Greece. Supposedly a Babylonian monk moved to Greece and he just decided that he was going to teach astrology to all the Greek theologists and philosophers, so that's why our modern westernized version of astrology comes from the Greek sort of methodology. If you wanted to learn more about the history aspect of things, I know that was a very vague, very brief history. I came across a really nice website called Gaia.com, and I'll leave the website link in the description below if you wanted to go and do some more reading. Astrologers use an astrology board to map out the planets and create sort of star maps, I guess, but also to create natal charts, which are otherwise known as birth charts. A birth chart looks like this. The signs of the zodiac are around the edge, and then in the middle there are the houses. The houses are a bit weird because depending on where and when you were born, they change length. So I found a really good website that talks about all of the different houses and what they mean and stuff like that, because each of the houses is a different sort of representation of an aspect of your life. If you wanted to go and have a little bit more of a look at your astrological footprint and what some of your planet placements are and what they mean, etc, etc, I'd definitely go and check out Cafe Astrology. It's really good. I'll leave a link down below. It's my go-to website for all things sort of horoscopy and stuff like that. When thinking of astrology and natal charts and everything like that, people often think that the most important sign is your zodiac sign, which is also known as your sun sign. So first of all, I'll try and explain what the zodiac is. The zodiac itself is an area of space that's kind of like a band that goes around our solar system. So it's split up into 12 sections, and each segment is a different section of the zodiac. It's ruled by a constellation. That's all there is to it. So like I said, the zodiac is split up into 12 sections. Each of those sections has a corresponding date within our year. So for example, let's go with Taurus. If you're born between the 20th of April and the 20th of May, roughly, I don't know the exact dates, you are born under the star sign of Taurus, like me. Each of the signs of the zodiac is ruled by a planet. And each of the planets rule a certain aspect of your personality or your behavioural pattern. There are plenty, I'm not going to run through them all because there's literally so many, but I'll tell you the 5 most important ones. So the first is obviously the sun, which governs sort of ego itself. Moon is mood and emotions. Your Mercury is sort of communication and thinking. Venus is your affections and your relationships. And then Mars is your activity, I think. Yeah, so Mars is your energy and sort of your confidence levels. So the further away these planets are from the sun, the longer they will take to move through the zodiac. So for example, Venus takes about 30 days to move through the zodiac, whereas Pluto takes roughly, I mean there's loads of different options here with Pluto, but roughly 10 to 30 years, so we'll say 20 years. So we'll use those two planets, Venus and Pluto, as examples. So basically what that means is that anyone born within the same 30 days will have will have the same Venus sign, and anyone who was born within the same 20 years or so will have the same Pluto sign. So you can see that obviously quite a lot of people share a lot of the same planets. Cafe astrology uses a lot of jargon sort of terms to talk about where the planets are in alignment to you and on your chart. So I'm going to talk through a couple of terms, the ones that I think are the most important to know about when you're reading your chart. The first one is an aspect. So an aspect is when 2 or more planets line up in the sky, and they have different names for the different angles between the alignment of those planets. So if you wanted to go and learn about the differences between the angles and what that all means in terms of the alignment of the planets, then I found a really good website with loads of information on what it all means, which I'll leave again in the description if you're super duper interested in that sort of thing. The big R word, retrograde. When a planet goes into a retrograde, it's when it starts to look like it's spinning backwards because we're passing it quicker than it's passing us. A good analogy for retrograde is when you're in the back seat of a car on the motorway and you're going slightly quicker than the car next to you. When you turn to look at that car, it looks like it's going backwards. The only other important term that I'm going to talk about today is a return. So a return is when a planet returns to the position that it was at when you were born. Retrogrades and returns aren't something to be stressed or worried about. It's just a time to reflect on the aspect that that planet rules. Which leads me on perfectly to talking about what is currently going on in our planetary system. And I mean, we've got a whole heap of planets in retrograde. So I'm going to list them because I just can't remember how many we've got. Are you ready for this? We've got Mercury, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune and Pluto in retrograde. Because there are so many planets in retrograde right now, I'm not going to go into detail about how to deal with each aspect of those planets, but I will give you a couple of Instagram feeds to go check out if you're interested. My favourite one is Sanctuary World because it gives you nice rundowns on how to deal with each individual retrograde, what to expect, and how to alter your behaviour so that you're living as harmoniously with the planets as you can. So that's kind of the big stuff that's going on in terms of the planets. There's also a Jupiter-Pluto conjunction at the moment, which is an aspect, so a kind of alignment between the planets. So if you want to go read more about that, I'll leave a link down in the description for one of my favourite Instagram accounts, which is Flowers for Days Astrology. Daisy talks really in depth about all the different positions of our planets, the alignment, and how the little differences in them influence our everyday lives. So if you're super duper interested, that is definitely an account to go follow. But otherwise, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a bit all over the place and I tried to squeeze so much information into so little time. So I'm very sure that I've missed stuff out. Please let me know if I got anything wrong in the comments. Again, I'm not an expert on this topic and I really want to learn more about it. So that's why I'm doing this whole series. If you've got any book recommendations, website recommendations, corrections to make on anything I said, let me know. If you've got any questions or you want a bit more of an in-depth explanation about anything I talked about, then don't hesitate to DM me. My Instagram is @yogi.z, and it's always really nice to hear from you, so let me know if you liked the video as well. I guess I'll see you in the next one. Alright then. Ta-ra!